There are reasons to feel optimistic about the football team. However, the basketball team had some tough luck this weekend. We're going to talk about it all right here on the Locked On Vandy podcast. Let's get it.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thank you for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's Jase medical.com. Well, the snow is falling here in Nashville. It is set to be a snowy week. But despite the snow, there's going to be plenty of optimism surrounding this Vanderbilt football program. I'm optimistic about them. I think the goal of making a bowl game is well within reach. Again, that's crazy of me to say coming off the heels of a 2-10 season where Vanderbilt football did not look the strongest in any game they played in. But again, I'm optimistic. Here's why. All right. First reason, you go out and get you have a major need at quarterback. You go out and get one, Nate Johnson. If you watched him at Utah, he is a freshman. Kid showed promise, man. Like we broke down his tape. There's some other episodes if you want to go and subscribe to our channel and go look at the other episodes that are in there. There is some stuff about Nate Johnson. I break down his tape, things like that. But I mean, the guy's a weapon. I mean, he's a weapon with his feet, weapon with his throws. He played in a system at Utah that asked him to do a lot of different things. So like, he's not a one-trick pony, which with a lot of these athletic quarterbacks that you get, some of them are one-trick ponies, and that's just kind of the way it happens. You know, it's nobody's fault. But for Nate Johnson, he comes in, he's got the tools. He's got a good arm. He's savvy. He understands. I think he started to understand defenses there at Utah. I think he came in. He's really, really good in the quarterback run game. So I think there's that element to it. I think that adds to the RPO, the levels of the RPOs and things like that. It seemed like he kind of started to understand, especially the first level RPOs, because they essentially became triple option plays with various methods of getting that third option, whether it was a arrow route out of the tight end or what I call a slip route or a bubble out of number 3, something out of the backfield. There was a lot of different ways that they got to those things, and Nate Johnson, I felt like can handle that. And he's a competitor. He's a gamer. And so I really like the pickup of Nate Johnson. Also at the quarterback position, you get 2 really good high schoolers. You get St. Hilaire and Muschamp out of Chattanooga. Both played in the state championship game. Obviously, one of them had to lose, but you get 2 really good competitive quarterbacks with slightly different skill sets to come in, and those guys. Don't count those guys out of the race either. I mean, those guys are super, super talented. So I think you shore up the quarterback position with some similar skill set guys, but in their similarities, some of their differences also are noted, and some of their differences they're not bad differences, but like you have an offensive coordinator, and that's going to be my next point here. You have an offensive coordinator that's going to take advantage of those. And that's got to be exciting to Vanderbilt fans. You have I think you've made the right. I think Clark Lee has made the right hire at the offensive coordinator spot. He's made really good. I feel like he's made really good hires all around, filling needs on the staff, not just with people he knows in his own network, but I think going out of the box. I think being able to get Tim Beck to come which presumably is understood to just be a 1-year thing because, Clark Lea's seat is red hot, and rightfully so. But I think him coming over tells you that Clark Lee is that the light bulb might be flickering on a little bit. And so we broke down Tim Beck ad nauseum. Like we broke down a bunch of stuff within his scheme. I've talked about things that he does really, really well, and those things will help the quarterback position. I think they will help the offensive line, which is still something that needs to be addressed in the portal. But I think the scheme will help this offensive line not look bad, right? Because if you have a system that makes you, or that oftentimes leaves you running into loaded boxes, or having to protect in obvious passing situations, getting yourself behind the sticks and things like that, not winning first down is a huge thing. So having an asset in the quarterback run game will help you win first down more times than not, and that's important as well. So I think with those two things, at least, I think they possibly struck some gold there with Tim Beck and Nate Johnson because of what they do and what they can help you do, especially on first down. You get some weapons. You lose some weapons. Obviously, McGowan, Humphreys, and Shepard were pretty good. Not gonna lie, like that. That hurts losing those three, but you replace them with some talent, but like some unknown talent. So. I know nobody kind of knows what Dylan and Foyt bring. Nobody knows what those two bring, and they didn't play a whole lot in their respective destinations due to whatever circumstances. Probably why they're in the transfer portal. But if you look at their high school tape, you can see the talent. You can see what they are capable of. You can see the ceiling that they have. Both big targets will bode well in this offense. I had Stephen Willis on to talk about Jeremiah Dillon. He talked a little bit about Ole Miss basketball too, but he came on, talked about Jeremiah Dillon, and described him as smooth. Well, there's some shot plays and there's some things in this offense that take advantage of that, a smooth receiver. And this group is going to be relatively unknown, and we kind of knew that coming into the season. You would have liked to have held on to at least one of the three stars that left between McGowan, Shepard, and Humphreys, but you lose all three, and you can't sit there and mope and cry over the spilled milk or whatever the saying is, but you just have to kind of move on and start over. Which I think the scheme can kind of help inexperienced receivers kind of settle in, because it is run heavy with not only running back runs but quarterback runs. RPOs, quick game, pocket moving stuff, like things that put receivers in good position for success is what this offense is all about. And it's trying to put your offensive line and quarterback in the best position to be successful as well. Because if your offensive line fails, it doesn't matter who else you have. You could have 11 me's out there. No, it wouldn't be 11. That wouldn't be the right math, but you could have 6 me's out there. It wouldn't matter if your offensive line is bad, right? If your offensive line is good and you have 6 of me out there, you're probably going to be in pretty big trouble. But if your offensive line is bad, you can just say, "Good night, nurse. We're just going to blow up and start this thing over again." But that's not the case here. I think scheme wise, they're going to. I think Tim Beck is going to help out his offensive line, which is really, really good. Still a position to me. Joshua Raymond, top freshman at that position coming in. I think he'll play a big factor down the road. Defensively, actually, I'm gonna go back to offense real quick. Tyler Fortenberry is going to be a massive piece in this offense, literally and figuratively, because the tight end position in a Tim Beck scheme is vital. You saw it at New Mexico State. They featured the tight end a lot. The tight end was a big part of the RPO game. Big part of the run blocking, quick game stuff. There's some short concepts there. It's got to be a good pass protector too, because if you're putting the quarterback on the edge and having him move, you're going to need somebody that can protect the passer a little bit too in some of these max protect schemes. So your tight end's going to have to be smart and understand spacing and spatial awareness. B, going to have to understand protections and how to diagnose different pressures and things like that. So why not get a former quarterback converted to tight end from junior college in Tyler Fortenberry? So I'm excited about that one as well. Optimism. So, well, we're going to continue this discussion here. We're going to take a quick break, but we're going to continue this discussion because I want to take a look at why the defense is giving me and the special teams is giving me optimism. We're going to make it around to basketball too. So we're going to get to all of that here next. All right. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL regular season is definitely in the books. The NFL playoffs have just about wrapped up, so we're getting ready to get into the divisional round here, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use. There's so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub. That's obviously the best way to find popular parlays. And there's so much more. All right, so visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. Welcome back. It is the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. We are back, segment 2. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Be sure to check out our guys over at Locked On SEC for more information. Chris Gordy does a phenomenal job over there, so be sure to make that your second listen. And also find us on social media at Locked On Vandy, X and IG right now, and you find us there. Chit chat, all that good stuff. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, of course, all day, every day, man. So want to thank the everydayers for making all of this possible. This would not be possible without you. So I appreciate you. Pass the word. Let's get more in the Everydayer Club, right? We'll call it the Everydayer Club. Get more in there. We'll figure it out. If we get the subscriptions up to 1,000, maybe we're looking at next football season a live pregame show every Saturday morning. If we can get up north of 1,000, maybe get to 2,000, I'll do a live show from a tailgate. I have some friends at tailgate. I'll do it from their tailgate. Right? We'll set up some live remote stuff. We'll do some. I'm willing to do a few things if we get the subscriber base up. Right? We got to make it worthwhile. Right? So let's pass the word around. You get to see me in the flesh and blood because I'm a Nashville resident and been one for 15 years, and so we're all good here. So let's do that. But first, before we can ever get to 1,000 subscribers, we got to make it through this episode. So talking about football and why the optimism is there. Well, we talked about the offense in the last segment. There's a lot to be excited about offensively, starting with the quarterback, all the way throughout all positions. Even though the wide receiver group is unproven and widely unknown, that's going to be it's going to be exciting to find out kind of what they can do. There's a lot of potential there. The ceiling's high. I don't know about the floor, but the ceiling's high, and we'll see kind of what these receivers can do. Dillon and Foungy are two receivers that are coming in that are going to be really, really good. So the bowl game is in reach. I think that goal is intact. I think that goal is very much in reach. And again, you're probably thinking, pump the brakes. I'm not going to pump the brakes. I'm all gas, no brakes, as Robert Saleh would say. Here's why. Defense, okay? Defense was abysmal last year, much like the offense. Well, if you noticed, both coordinators got fired. You hired Tim Beck as offensive coordinator, and Clark Lee says, you know what? My seat's hot. I'm going to take over the defense, right? And that he should do, because he was an excellent defensive coordinator at Notre Dame. He was excellent in his schemes. You always saw Notre Dame's defense flying around. You always saw them well prepared. You always saw them tackle well. And it seems like all that was lost when he came to Vandy, because obviously he has to be the head coach, and there's a lot other stuff that come with that doesn't allow him to really kind of get down into the scheme. And we're going to find out this year if he's, head coach material, because this is it for him. And he knows it. That's why he's taking over the defense. So he's either going to get reps at defense. He's either going to get some game film for auditions for defensive coordinator roles, or he's going to blow this thing out of the water. And here we go. Like, Vandy could be a viable team. So, I think it's a win-win. If it goes south in a hurry, Vanderbilt can cut bait and say, okay, Clark, this didn't work out, man. We appreciate your service, all that good stuff. And Clark Lee can be like, okay, well, I've got some defense coordinator film, most recent here. Blah, 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 blah. Here's my resume, all that good stuff. All right, that's neither here nor there. I don't want to ramble too much, but here's why I feel optimistic about the defense. Clark Lee taking it over. Again, I said why. His teams at Notre Dame look the way they look. You're starting to kind of break down his schemes and stuff. He actually has an aggressive style of defense, and they're physical. They come after you a little bit. They don't sit back and play coverage a whole lot. Sometimes they probably will, depending on the situation. But it seems like they really, really like coming after you. They really like playing cover one. They'll do it early in the game. They'll do it on second down. They'll do it on third down, third and medium or more, third and short. I'm going to start to kind of take a look at some run situations and kind of see how they play those. And some notable games that year. I think 2019 was the last year that he was defensive coordinator. So I'm going to look at some of the notable games from that year. They played Georgia, USC. I think they played Michigan State. There were some pretty solid games in there that they played that we can take a look at, kind of see how they did against the run, because I think they did pretty well against the run. They were pretty stingy. So if they can stop the run, they'll be really, really good. So we're going to explore that as we go. We're going to kind of see what he looks like against the run. So I'm excited for one that he's taken over the defense. There's some pieces that have coming in. Zaylen Wood, Corday Sindor. You have on the defensive line, defensive front. You have 3 early enrollees coming in. Look at past episodes for those breakdowns, but you have 3 of those guys coming in. You have Randon Fontenette coming in. You have 2 really good corners coming in from the transfer portal, Marlon Jones and Colby Taylor. Colby Taylor is 6'4", which we'll see if he can flip his hips and turn and run, because DBs usually have to be a little bit shorter and more nimble. But if you get a big, tall guy with long arms, man, that's a tough target to throw around. And so to see him sitting out there, a coaching friend of mine used to say, he used to do this some. He had a team that, like, he had to kind of do some smoke and mirrors to kind of win some games. So he had a team out there. He would say, you know what? I take my tallest kid, throw him out there at corner. Doesn't matter how good he is. If they see that big dude out there, they're not throwing to him. And it actually works sometimes. But I think there are some teams, obviously the more well-coached teams, were going to figure out that guy couldn't run, and they were going to go after him. But, not saying Colby Taylor's that guy, but like just being 6'4" is physically imposing enough. So I'm really excited about the defense there as well. Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot more movement on the defensive line. So those guys being undersized is not going to be as big of a deal because they're going to be moving, twisting, stunting, all that good stuff. The linebackers are going to be moving around as well. So again, lots of exciting things coming through the portal. Special teams. You get a whole new special teams unit with a long snapper, punter, and kicker. You get the guy from Ohio State who had a really good run. Didn't punt much this past year, or maybe it was the year before. There was one year where he didn't punt a whole lot because their offense just really didn't punt a whole lot because they were good. It's like Brett Thorson down in Georgia. He's a hilarious social media follow if you want to follow him. But you get shored up in a lot of different areas, and it's really, really good. So a lot of optimism, man. Like I'm really excited about it. Bowl game is in reach. Lots of things surrounding this team. Lots of pieces. We're going to keep breaking those pieces down. We're going to break them down till you're probably tired of hearing about it and you're ready for new stuff. Well, new stories are going to emerge in the spring. You're going to hear some guys on the roster that I haven't been talking about, and that'll probably be start making an impact and stuff like that. So some exciting things around. Don't get it twisted. But when we come back, we're going to talk some basketball. We're going to talk some hoops. Men's and women's teams had a tough weekend, unfortunately. But it is what it is. It's what happens. And we'll break it down right here next. All right. Talking about Jase Medical. This episode is also brought to you by Jase Medical. And I know you guys are oftentimes you want to look for sports to be an escape from some crazy realities of real life. But can we just talk about a minute about preparing for real life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. This is scary. I can't imagine a more helpless feeling than if your significant other or one of your kids got sick while a supply chain issue kept them from life-saving medication that they needed. Thankfully, they'll be okay because of Jase Medical. The Jase case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics used to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us. So visit jasemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It has never been more important to be prepared than today. So go to jasemedical.com and use the offer code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your first order. All right, segment 3, we're going to wrap this thing up. Basketball. This is the Locked On Vandy podcast, by the way. Thanks for making us your first listen. Why don't you make your third listen Locked On Ole Miss? Because he'll probably have the flip side of this game that we're about to talk about here. We're going to take a look at that as well. So tough weekend for the Vanderbilt basketball teams. The women dropped their first loss at home. They fall short to Missouri, 65-63 in a hard-fought game. It was just wasn't meant to be. They have to figure out ways to finish. I think some of the communication woes went against them. And I'm doing this chronologically, by the way. Rebounding was not really good. They got out-rebounded almost by double. And, not good there. So finishing down the stretch just went cold, got out-rebounded, got kind of bullied in the paint a little bit. But for the most part, not a bad effort. Really good effort, actually. They played extremely hard. But we know that Iona Moore and we know what Iona Moore and Jordan Cambridge bring to the table, but Camille Pierre is becoming a very, very special player. She's a freshman. She finished with 16 points. That's her career high, and 12 rebounds. That's a double-double. She's the sixth one. She's the first one off the bench. So might be finding a way into the 5 here very, very soon. On the men's side, this is the concerning part, right? This is and I really don't want to be negative. really, 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 really don't want to be negative. And thankfully, I can't be too negative because I only got 5 minutes left to give you all of my thoughts. But I'm starting to think that Stackhouse is not the right guy. And you love him. He's a good guy. He means well. He wants to win. He's competitive. But I just don't think he's a college coach. I mean, there's some people are just built for college. Some people aren't. I don't think Stackhouse is made for college. Vanderbilt lost today. The score wasn't so bad. It was 69-56, so it wasn't terrible. But Vanderbilt is 5-11. They're 0-3 in league play, and they trailed for all but 24 seconds. So let's let that sink in a little bit. They only had the lead for 24 seconds of the entire game. All right. So here's the thing, and this has been a problem all year long, and this is why I'm starting to think that Jerry Stackhouse is not the guy. And I'm trying to be optimistic. Okay, here's the good. So I'll give you the good, bad, the ugly. Okay, so I'll start with the good. I don't want to be too negative, right? I hate being negative. Don't want to be negative. So the good, obviously, Ezra Mannion is a baller. Tyron Lawrence is also a baller. We love those two. They're stars. And an emerging star is Jason Rivera-Torres. He had another double-digit night or double-digit day on Saturday. He's starting to kind of understand it. It's starting to kind of click for him. But again, why is it not clicking for the team then? You have three really, really good players, but why is it not clicking for the team? Well, here's the bad. Their three-point defense. Vandy allowed Ole Miss to shoot 40% from three-point land. That ain't good. You're not going to win a whole lot of games if you can't close out around the perimeter. Also, rebounding on both sides, right? They were out-rebounded, as they have been just about every game. They let in 13 second chance points. And they allowed 12 rebounds and then 13 second chance points. They were significantly outmatched in the front court. They couldn't do anything. They were just getting bullied down on the block. They didn't have anybody that they could dump it into on the offensive side of the ball that can kind of go put it next to the rim. They have nothing, no presence around the rim. And some of that's maybe due to injury. I don't know. But when you don't have a presence around the rim, you've got to change the way you play. And I just don't think that they're doing that. Here's the ugly. Got 2 minutes. Here's the ugly. Shooting. Why in the heck are we not shooting well? Still, how's this still an issue? You go on these huge scoring droughts. You can't do that. It's consistency, right? You go on a run and then you just completely squander it by going cold. You can't hit the broadside of a barn, whether it's you just lack the execution of being able to hit an open shot, you're taking bad shot selection, you're not moving the ball around, or you're just getting defended. Either way, you're not opening, you're just not moving around enough, you're not opening things for yourself. And that's a coaching thing. You have to, as a coach, you have to be able to get these guys to understand ball movement. You have to have some set pieces there. You have to have things that are going to create good shots for you. If you don't, these guys are just going to sit back and launch threes because they've been watching Steph Curry all their life do the same thing. So, hey, why not? Works for him, works for me. You got to be able to coach them into good shot selection, executing, and actually have an offense. I just don't see any of that. This is the two teams that come to mind when I watch this Vanderbilt team is watching Ole Miss last year and watching Georgia last year. Both teams had horrible shot selection. Both teams looked like they had just met each other 5 minutes before the game. Both teams were not. Both teams, you could see that there was some a little bit of good coaching coming through. Obviously, with Georgia, it was a talent deficiency. They did everything they could. With Ole Miss, they were not well coached. They had some talent there, but they were not well coached. And I think the same thing with Vanderbilt. I think Vanderbilt is just I think their basketball team is just in some deep doo-doo right now. And they're just going to have to get somebody that they're going to have to find somebody. And I don't know if this type of coach will work out, but they have to find somebody that can recruit, build the roster, and then coach it up later, I guess. I don't know what's going to happen there. But again, not acceptable to go out by not being able to shoot again. You've got to fix these issues that you have to, or you don't, and you're looking for a job. Who knows? But tough weekend. The women's team has a lot of promise. They just got to figure out how to close out down the stretch in some of these closer games. And then the men's team's got to find some consistency, man. They just got to. They got to be able to execute. They got to be able to shoot better, and they got to be able to make up for their lack of presence inside, because they're not going to have a presence inside this year. They just need to forget about that, and they need to find a way around it, coach their way out of it, right? So anyway, that's going to do it. I've gone over time a little bit. So this is the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. If you are listening from the Nashville area, I hope you stay safe with all the snow. Don't get out and drive if you don't have to, but just stay inside. Listen to the full lineup of Locked On podcasts, starting with this one. So we thank you everydayers for making all of this possible. We hope that number grows and will continue to grow. I'll do everything I can to make sure. Race to 1,000 here. See you back here tomorrow. Unless something changes, should be with Kurt Page. So get excited about that. But until then, as always, you know the drill. Anchor down. We'll see you back tomorrow. Goodbye.